let's talk about public safety because I know that's what's on most people's minds. Do you have any new initiatives that you're planning to improve our public safety in Columbia?
Well, I think we want to continue the momentum we've had, right? Where we've been investing in our police and fire departments. So obviously increasing the staffing levels, still looking at ways to address the pension. At our last council meeting, we requested what would it take to put would it be beneficial to put new recruits onto the state system, and would that be beneficial? So basically just working with our department heads on how do we do this.
And you also created a new department before you won the
Yeah, so
reelection.
yeah, so we just hired our administrator for the Office of Violence Prevention, and so I'm really looking forward to the work that Demarcus Thomas Brown will be doing in that space because I think it'll be transformational in our community.
How will it be transformational? Well, how will people notice that there's going to be a difference?
Well, that's the always interesting thing. Chief Schluty talks about if you don't necessarily see that crime went down because you just don't see it, right? That's the whole point. So I think it's because we'll see better communication and coordination between the data that we have from the city and then also the community groups working in these spaces. And so hopefully you'll see a better collaboration, and that's how you'll see the impact.
Okay, another topic a lot of people are concerned about is affordable housing in Columbia.
Yeah.
Are you going to wave a magic wand and fix that?
Right. I don't have a magic wand. And, I just had a call today with other mayors around the country, and we were talking about, this is something that we're all struggling with. How do we have enough affordable and attainable housing? Obviously, our implementation of some of the recommendations in the housing study will help us with that. We're reviewing our own building codes, our own zoning rules to see how can we really increase intentional infill, as well as decrease some of the bureaucracies that we might have as a city government that might stymie the production of new housing units.
Homelessness is kind of tied into that. I
Yeah.
mean, you drive around as much as I do in around town. I'm seeing people sleeping
Yeah.
on the sidewalks.
Yeah.
How long is that going to last?
Yeah, well, again, this is something that obviously it's not unique to Columbia, but obviously having enough housing is first and foremost, right? Having options for people to live in housing. And that's everything from affordable housing to transitional housing and to shelters. But also, we are advocating at a county and a state level to really get more resources into the social supportive services. So for those who are experiencing mental health or substance abuse disorders, how do we help connect them with services to get them back on their feet again?
We're getting a lot of work done on Interstate 70. How is that going to impact your decisions on how we deal with transportation? Right
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be an interesting one. I think I've mentioned before, it's going to be like homecoming weekend, but like every day for traffic in some areas. Obviously, we're working closely with MoDOT and our own Department of Public Works to figure out how do we help our infrastructure getting around those spaces. But for me, I look at it as a boom, right? They're starting here in Columbia, and we get to see the benefits of the improvements that they're making to I-70.
Okay, and what about Public Works? Are we going to see more funding for them, or
So,
is that a possibility?
Right. Well, obviously, so Public Works is our third highest funded general fund department because infrastructure and transportation is a big part of what it is that people expect local government to do. I know we're hopeful that we'll continue to see some of the federal funding, but I am nervous as some of those cuts are coming down from DC that they might impact some of our local projects. Obviously, transit is a big piece of what we get federal funding for. So I think focusing locally on our own capital improvement sales tax that passed last year, that helps us with funding for some of our projects as well as just general fund sales tax.
Is there something on your back burner that we don't know about?
Gosh, I think right now is the priorities for me is continuing to advocate for Columbia in Jefferson City and Washington D.C. because as these discussions are happening about cuts to programs and services and funding, that's going to affect everybody in Columbia, regardless of whether or not you're a federal employee or you're just local here, private citizen. So continuing to advocate for our community so that people know that when they're talking about cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, all of these things, that's going to impact us, and we want to continue having the services we do in Columbia.
Let's talk about the election. Your two major opponents said they're not going to run again.
Why not? I don't know. It's so much fun.
Are you planning on running again?
It's funny when I first ran, my mayor has always been Darwin Heineman, right? That was who was mayor when I came to school here at Columbia. And so to me, I always looked at his tenure, and, he served 5 terms. He probably didn't have to deal with Facebook though. So I would say for me, I'm kind of just take it as I go. I really am privileged and honored to serve in this capacity, and I want to continue to serve my community that I love. But we'll see in 2 years if I still want to do it again.
All right. Anything else you'd like to tell the citizens of Columbia?
No, I'll just say I thank you for your support, and regardless of whether or not you voted for me or somebody else, I'll continue to show up for our community, and I hope to have everybody's support going forward.
Barbara Buffaloe, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.